It's time for your Low Country Real Estate Market Update. It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Brian is one of the top 1% real estate agents in Charleston. Find him online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. Now, broadcasting from the WTMA studios, here's your host, Brian Beatty.
Good morning, Charleston. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. I'm your host, Brian Beatty. Thanks for joining me this morning as we discuss housing here in the Low Country, everything from what's happening with prices out there, what's going on in the market in general, some general education. If you're thinking about buying, selling, or investing in real estate, this is the show for you. So over the next hour, we're going to talk about quite a bit, everything from credit scores and selling for sale by owner to what's going on in our market. I'm going to actually read off some numbers for you guys this weekend with regard to what's happening here in the Low Country, with regard to prices and sales and inventory and all that fun stuff. So stick around over the course of the hour. If for whatever reason you can't catch the whole show, we play this show Saturdays from 9 to 10 and Sundays from 10 to 11. So you've got two options over the weekend to catch this. And of course, you can go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. You can listen to previous versions of the show. You can learn more about me and what my team and I do to sell real estate. We've already done, just this year, over 60 transactions. We're on pace to sell somewhere between 250 and 300 homes this year. It's just been a crazy market out there on both the buying and the selling side. And so we welcome your comments through that website, listingsincharleston.com. Maybe you'd like more information on a particular area. You want to buy a home. And if you want to sell a home, I'm rolling out a new commission incentive for this program. As many of you know that have been listening to me as I've been doing this for years, I've always done the 59-day home sale guarantee. In other words, I'll sell your home in 59 days or less, or I'll sell it for half my commission. I'm going to do something a little different. So mention this when you contact me if you're thinking about selling your house, and it'll be a great way for you guys to save some money. So here's the deal. I will list your house and sell it for a 2.4% commission. 2.4%. The average commission in our industry is 6%. The listing agent keeps 3%. The buyer agent gets 3%. I'm going to do it for 2.4%, and I'm going to let you determine how much you want to compensate the buyer agent. So 2.4% listing commission. Feel free to go to my website, listingsincharleston.com, for more information, or give me a call at 843-345-1273. So let me tell me a little bit about what I want to talk about this weekend. First thing I want to talk about is credit scores. And of course, full disclosure, I'm not a lender. However, I've been around the block a few times. I've been selling real estate for a decade, over 1,000 transactions my team and I have worked on. So we know a thing or two about credit score. And that's, of course, one of the things that's just, it's very difficult to understand. I think for a lot of people, they look at credit scores and they see it as this random trio of numbers determined by some sort of complicated algorithm, which it is. Credit scores are very difficult to understand. But what I want to do is just help you guys understand a little bit more about, what's the minimum credit score that lenders are looking for? What's a good credit score? What are some things that you can do to improve your credit score? So I want to talk to you about that for a little while. But as we progress throughout this hour, we're also going to talk about what's going on in our market, the multiple offers that we're seeing, what you need to know if you're a buyer, what do you need to know if you're a seller, what's going on in our market in general. I've also got some information on what you need to know if you're going to be a for sale by owner. I got kind of a disgruntled message from a seller that had heard me on the radio and said, all this is a rant, but I want to tell you what's going on with my house, and I want to tell you what I think about real estate agents. So I'm going to read you that email a little bit later on, which it's going to be fun, put it that way. All right, so let's talk about credit scores. What is the minimum credit score that you need for a mortgage? Well, let's first talk about a few different kinds of loan programs out there, shall we? You've got, of course, the conventional mortgage. You've got an FHA mortgage, and you have a VA mortgage. You get a VA mortgage if you've served in the armed forces in some capacity. It's 100% financing, no money down. An FHA loan is 3.5% down. And then, of course, the conventional loan is for those that want to put more money down. Some more options there. You get to avoid something called mortgage insurance. So for FHA loans, let's talk about that for a little bit, okay? A lot of people are using FHA loans right now. Minimum credit score for an FHA loan is 580 with a 3.5% down payment. However, that doesn't necessarily take you out of the running, because FHA lenders allow lower credit scores with a down payment of 10% or more. So you've got some options. And so when we're looking at credit scores, the credit score is going to determine what interest rate you're going to get based on that particular lender's availability of loan products. Okay, so let's talk about VA loans for just a minute. VA loans, of course, if you've served in the armed forces in some capacity, then you get your certificate of eligibility, and it allows you to obtain 100% financing, no money down. Now, the VA themselves don't necessarily have a minimum credit score. However, VA lenders do, and that credit score is 620. Now, here's what I'm going to say about credit scores is that just because you might have a lower than normal credit score does not mean you can't get a mortgage. The difference really is in whom you communicate with about obtaining a mortgage. If you're talking to a big bank, they have very rigid rules that, they're very strict. They have very specific guidelines that you have to fall within. I've always found that working with local lenders has been, in my experience, and again, I've been doing this for a long time, it's just been more favorable. You get more attention to detail. You get a more communicative loan officer and an underwriting department and processor and so on and so forth. It's easier to get questions answered, and it's also easier to get those complicated loans approved. I mean, we just had one close just a few days ago, actually. And first of all, we had to work on their credit. And the great thing about credit is that credit usually can be fixed in a relatively short amount of time by doing certain things. And so in this particular situation, we had their credit ran before we started looking for properties, which is what you should do if you're a buyer. You should get your credit score checked. You should have that initial discussion with a lender to see how much you're pre-approved for. And as it played out, their credit score was lower than they thought it was. They had some errors and some discrepancies on their credit report. They got it fixed up, and their credit score rose by 60 points, which then qualified them for a lower interest rate. So it's incredibly important if you're thinking about buying a property in the Charleston area that you get your credit checked and that you go through that pre-approval process. I know a lot of agents say, hey, they're not necessarily going to tell you this, but here's what they're thinking. They're thinking, hey, I don't want to go and show you a bunch of property if you can't afford to buy what we're looking at. And I think that's a somewhat fair thing to say. It doesn't take a lot of time. It takes maybe 10 minutes for you to fill out an online loan application to determine what your credit score is and to determine how much you can afford and what your payment will be and what sort of loan products you're looking at. I think it just makes sense for you to do that. But the more important reason to do that, of course, is that if you truly want to buy something and you've been through that pre-approval process, they give you something called a pre-approval letter. And I'm kind of bouncing around in between subjects here, but I'll go back to credit score in a minute. But there's a difference between a pre-qualification letter, a pre-approval letter, and an approval letter. Some of the lenders that I work with will fully underwrite your loan before you find a house. So in other words, they've already taken you through that underwriting process. The only thing they need from you is a ratified contract on the house you want to buy, and then an appraisal, and then, of course, to verify that your credit and your income and your debt has remained the same from the time you initially filled out the loan application until closing. And so the more information that you can gather and the stronger you can appear as a buyer in the eyes of a seller, the better chance you have of getting a property in a multiple offer situation. Or really just a competitively priced home. If I'm representing a seller, which is almost all of what I do, I have buyer agents represent buyers on my team. But if I'm representing a seller and I get an offer and it does not have a letter from a reputable institution stating that they're pre-approved for a mortgage, then I'm going to tell that seller, hey, look, we've got an offer on your house and it's a pretty good one, but we have no idea whether or not these guys can get a mortgage. I'm going to suggest that you mandate a pre-approval process before you accept this offer. And I think that's fair. I do not want to take a property off the market and go through the process of trying to close and then find out several weeks later that the buyer can't get financing. It just doesn't make sense to put sellers in that situation, especially in a market like this one where properties are flying off the shelf. So if you're a buyer, obviously very important for you to have that initial discussion with the lender and to determine what your credit score is, see if there's anything you can do to increase it, and then, of course, go through the pre-approval process so that when you find that property you want to make an offer on, you look as good as you possibly can in the eyes of the seller. So back to credit scores for just a bit. As I mentioned, the credit score is going to determine your interest rate. The lower the credit score, the higher the interest rate is going to be. What's a great credit score? Mid 700s, low 800s. That's a fantastic credit score. I'm seeing a lot of credit scores in the 600s right now, and it's not a problem at all. I've seen credit scores as low as I think 540, and still we were able to get the job done between my lenders and just getting the deal done. Representing the buyer to the best of our ability and making a strong offer and saying, hey, this buyer's already been through this process. I know their credit score is low, but they're good to go. It doesn't matter to the seller what your credit score is. All they care about is whether or not you can buy the house and get a mortgage. So what are some things that you can do to improve your credit score really quickly? Well, of course, you're going to want to talk to your lender about this. And this is kind of aside from the debt-to-income ratio that they tell you about. But if you want to increase your credit score, I've seen things like paying off some of your loans, paying off your car loan, maybe deferring your student loans, looking for errors, looking for things that may have been posted on your report that aren't accurate. I've seen things show up on people's credit reports that aren't theirs. It's just wrong. It's just not their charge. It's not their delinquency. It's someone else, yet it's attached to their credit score. So there's all kinds of little tips and tricks that lenders that I work with can do to increase your credit score. And if you're interested in learning more about that, I have a credit repair company that I work with that does not charge you anything to improve your credit score. So if that's something of interest to you and you're thinking about buying a property, give me a call, 843-345-1273, or go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. We'll point you in the right direction, make sure we take good care of you, and answer those questions so that, again, if you want to buy a home in this market, we make you look as strong of a borrower as possible. So I'm going to take a break. When I come back, I'm going to talk about the market. I'm going to give you a market update. I'm going to give you actual statistics based on what's happening in our Tri-County area. So stick around, all that and more as the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
More stimulating talk on real estate matters with Brian Beatty next on 1250 WTMA. Now, the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues on Charleston's Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston, and thanks again for tuning in to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. I'm your host, Brian Beatty. We're talking about housing as we've been doing for the past 4 years on this program. Anything you need to know about buying, selling, investing, and what's going on in the market can be found here on this program. And of course, if you have specific questions, something you want to talk about off air with me, I invite your call, or you can go to my website. But my cell phone number is 843-345-1273. Or you can go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. You can learn more about me and my team and the success we've had. We've already done a little over 60 transactions this year. We'll sell somewhere hopefully between 250 and 300 homes this year. Sold well over 100 last year. So we're in the market. We're doing a lot of business, but we're helping a lot of people, and we're going about it in such a way that I'll put it this way. I think a lot of agents out there are so excited about the market that they're forgetting that, hey, we need to represent our client to the best of our ability, not just get a deal done. And so we are really focused right now on coaching our clients to navigate this crazy market. And that's the only way that I can put it, is that it's a crazy market. There are people asking a lot of money for homes that were not that much money just a few years ago. And so it's really tough for some people to wrap their heads around it. So that's on the buying side. And then on the selling side, a lot of people are underpricing property and they're selling way too fast. In my opinion, I think that they're leaving some money on the table. My job is to sell their home for the most amount of money and in the least amount of time. I think people are focusing more on the time than the money. And so if you're thinking about selling your house, I just mentioned last segment, I'm rolling out a new commission incentive for the listeners on this program, 2.4% to list your house with the Brian Beatty team, 2.4%. All of this designed to save you money. We are a 100% full-service real estate company. We do it all in terms of marketing. We spend over $100,000 a year just in online marketing to expose our listings to the market. So if you'd like more information about what we do to sell properties, go to my website, listingsincharleston.com, or call me, 843-345-1273. Again, 2.4% commission if you're going to list your house with me. All right, let's talk about the market. Lots to talk about, a lot going on. Really the best way the best adjective that I have is just crazy. It's just crazy out there, but in a good way. I'm enjoying it, obviously. But let's just talk about some of the macroeconomics first, right? So if you look at things that are driving the success within our market economically, the employment figures are positive, wages are going up, employers are hiring at rapid levels, me included, by the way. If you're thinking about getting into real estate, please give me a call. I have several positions that I need to fill within the next 60 days. Listingsincharleston.com is the best way to reach me, or 345-1273 is my cell. But here's in my mind, here's kind of the encouraging news, is that consumers are holding out in most cases for the right deal. They're not getting so caught up in the craziness of our market that they're throwing caution to the wind and saying, whatever, I just need to get into a house. I'm not seeing that right now. And I'm not seeing people, putting themselves in risky situations where they're buying more home than they can afford, or they're agreeing to some sort of crazy mortgage that they probably shouldn't have in the first place, and they're not leveraging a ton of properties to buy more properties that they can't afford. All that sound pretty familiar? Anybody see The Big Short? Great movie, even better book. But that's what's going on in our market right now. The biggest news in our market, which has been consistent, is the fact that we have extremely low inventory. So we have all of these buyers out there ready to buy, and the second quarter throughout the year is the best time to sell your home in Charleston. We are a seasonally driven market. Second quarter is the best time to sell your house. If you're thinking about selling your house, there's not a lot out there right now. You just don't have the competition like you used to, which to me is crazy. I'm so surprised that more sellers haven't put their home on the market. I think if you were to ask me to provide you with a CMA, or a comparative market analysis, to tell you what your home is worth, I'm getting people that are surprised at how much their home is worth, even from this time last year. But here's the crazy thing. If you look at inventory, which we're going to focus on among other things, this time last year, we had over 6,500 homes available for sale in the Charleston Tri-County area. At the end of March this year, we had 5,200. Our inventory has dropped 20% in 12 months, and the closings have stayed pretty much the same. We're selling, as of, well, actually, that's not true. I was doing March to March comparisons there. But if you look at our year-to-date sales at the end of March, we've closed about 3,500 homes. This time in 2015, we'd sold 3,350 homes. So closings are up about 5%. But the more interesting thing is the pending sales, all the properties that are under contract getting ready to close. At the end of March, we had 5,000 pending sales. At the end of March in 2015, we had 4,000. That's up 20%. So you've got a 20% increase in pending sales and a 20% decrease in inventory. So why aren't people out there taking advantage of those opportunities? I mean, I've got a friend that owned a bunch of rental property, and he's like, look, Brian, am I crazy to think that now would be a good time to sell these things? And I'm like, dude, it's time to take your money and run, because prices are going up fast. I don't know how much longer our market can sustain this incredible amount of appreciation that we've seen over the past, really about 2.5 years, from 2013 to now, middle of 2013 is really when things started to pick up some steam. But 2014 was a great year. 2015 was an even better year. And I think 2016 is going to be better than last year. I mean, that's what the numbers are showing, and the numbers don't really lie. You've got to take them with a grain of salt, as we've talked about. We can't just look at the fact that the median sales price is up 7% across the board, and that means that your home is worth 7% more. That's not what we're saying, because price is location specific, right? And of course, it's dependent upon your condition and your upgrades and your location and all that stuff. And we're going to talk about that next segment. We're going to talk about a CMA. What is a CMA? It's a comparative market analysis, but what does it actually mean? We're going to talk about that. But let me talk to you just a little bit more about the broad stroke numbers associated with our market right now. Let's talk about Berkeley County for a minute. And I'm going to read off the single-family detached statistics for Berkeley County. If you want specific information on your area, your neighborhood, homes comparable to yours, I will give you a CMA at no charge. I'm happy to tell you what your home is worth, with the idea that if you want to sell it, of course, I'd be given the opportunity to help you sell that. But happy to give away the information to help you become more informed as a consumer. That's what this show is all about. So Berkeley County single-family homes, I'm going to read the year-to-date stats versus the same amount of time last year. So Q1 for 2016 versus Q1 for 2015. In Berkeley County, there's only been a 4% increase in new listings, but there's been a 13% increase in closings. The median sales price is up 8%. And if you're going to sell your home, expect to get about 97% of your asking price and for it to sell in 55 days. That's down from 67 days last year. It's down almost 20%. That's pretty impressive. So that's what's going on in Berkeley County. Let's talk about Charleston County, which is where, the bulk of our closings occur. And again, single family stats, year-to-date stats, Q1 versus same amount of time in 2015. New listings are up 10%. Closings are up 3%. The median sales price is up 4%. There has been zero change in the percentage that you're going to receive off of your asking price, which is 95%. But I do want to say something really quickly. Charleston County also includes the most expensive real estate in our area. So these numbers are slightly skewed. Again, I'll read off something like Mount Pleasant. You'll see the difference. But on average, expect to sell your home in 67 days. So here's, as an example, what's going on in Mount Pleasant. Let me find that really quickly. Here we go. Let's do Lower Mount Pleasant. This is the area between the foot of the bridge up to the Isle of Palms connector. New listings are up 20%. Closings are up 0.6%, but the median sales price is up 14%. You're going to expect to get 95% of your asking price, and you're going to sell in 71 days. Pretty interesting. If you look at Upper Mount Pleasant as an example, new listings are up 17%. Closings are down 3%. The median sales price is up 7%. You're going to sell your home in 97% of asking price and in 82 days. So there's a lot of activity going on in these markets right now, but we need inventory. That's the whole point. That's what I've been saying to people for months and months and months. If you want to sell your house and you're ready to sell your house, there is no point in waiting any longer. The buyers are there. The market is there. The interest rates are still low. I'm telling you, if you price your home well, it will sell. And it's usually selling in 30 days or less. I think I've already sold maybe 15. It could be closer to 20 homes in like 2 weeks or less in this market. And it's not that we're underpricing them. It's just that, and in some cases, we're overpricing them. I mean, I thought that the seller wanted more than I was comfortable with. And look, I will be the first to tell you that even this market can surprise me. I had one listing that, I thought it was worth about $415. We said, all right, well, let's price it at $425. Let's build in some room for negotiations here. Well, it went under contract in 48 hours for $440. Wow. I mean, that's an example of what's going on in this market right now. People are paying top dollar for property, especially in those areas where there's just not a lot to choose from. All right, let's finish this up with Dorchester County really quickly. So far this year, we've had about a 6% increase in new listings. Closings are down 3%. The median sales price is up 6%. You can expect to get 96% off your asking price, or that's what it'll sell for, 96% of asking price, and it's going to sell in 66 days on average. So all good news. Challenging market if you're a buyer. Don't be so quick to react to a listing that you potentially overpay or get cold feet. We've had a lot of that happen this year too, unfortunately. They're doing this thing now where they're going to overpay for the property, at least initially, and then once they get the home inspection, because they're a little frustrated that they overpaid for the property, that they're going to try and beat you up over every little thing they find in the inspection. I'm seeing this more and more in this market. Something to be kind of attentive to. But again, if you're thinking about selling your house, 2.4% commission on the listing side. Happy to help you through that process. We're going to talk about CMAs next. What does it mean? Do you really need one? All that and more as the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues. Again, reach me at listingsincharleston.com or 843-345-1273. We're going to take another break. We'll be right back.
Have a real estate question? Ask Brian Beatty. Send him an email, lowcountryhomesales@gmail.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show is on 1250 WTMA.
The Big Talker, WTMA.
Expert news and views on the low country real estate scene. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston, and thanks again for tuning in to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show as we continue our discussion about housing here in the low country. I always like to take a little bit of time every show just to say thank you to those of you that listen to this program on a regular basis. Of course, we get new listeners that we're adding to this program every week. But for those of you that call me and say, hey, Brian, I've got a quick question about real estate, hope you can help, or of course, something more specific. Hey, Brian, I want to buy a house or sell a house or invest in some real estate. Just want to say thank you to those of you that entrust me with your business and for listening to me rant and rave for about an hour about housing, which of course is my passion. I've been doing this for 10 years and sold about 1,000 homes in my career already. We've already done 60-something transactions this year. It's just been a fantastic market. But I do want to say thanks to those of you that listen to this program and, of course, entrust me with your real estate needs. But I want to talk about CMAs, CMA, Comparative Market Analysis. A lot of agents are offering these to sellers free of charge right now, and that clearly makes sense because we have this huge lack of inventory in our market, and agents are doing everything they can to try and find new listings. It's just what we do. It's, there's nothing wrong with a real estate agent asking for business. That's why we're here. It's how we make money. It's how we feed our families. But I want to explain to you first what a CMA is, and then I want to give you some advice based on what I'm seeing right now in our market, based on what newer agents are doing. And, again, I'm not here to beat up agents on this program, but I do think there are some things that you need to know if you're potentially going to sell your house, just to be, wary of, just to be a little bit more informed than your average Joe out there that wants to sell your house. That's what the point of this show is to inform you of what's going on in our market so that you can make informed and realistic and educated decisions in this market. So let's talk about what a CMA is. It's a comparative market analysis. It's a report generated by a real estate agent. It provides you with data that compares your home to similar properties in the marketplace. It requires an agent really to walk through your house to give you a more accurate number. Of course, I can give you a ballpark. You've got all these Facebook ads now and all these different people saying, hey, click here to get your instant home value report. But that's not something you can rely on. If you want somebody to tell you what your house is worth, that agent needs to walk through the house. They need to be able to assess the condition and the upgrades, look at your location, look at the factors within the neighborhood to make an educated and informed assessment of the value of your home. So we walk through the property. Typically, I'll take some pictures on my phone just for the sake of remembering everything. And then I'll go back into the MLS and I will compare your property to what has recently sold. I'm going to look at what's on the market, what's under contract, what's sold in the past 6 months, and then what failed to sell. Usually, if we look at expired and withdrawn listings, we can get a gauge for, all right, well, we don't necessarily want to be in their price scheme because clearly something happened that prevented those homes from selling. Not all those homes are priced incorrectly. There's obviously several listings out there that aren't being marketed properly, and don't get me started on that. But what an agent is supposed to do for you is provide you with a report that compares your home to other homes that have recently sold as an indication of what that buyer was actually willing to pay for that property at that specific point in time. Here's what I'm seeing a lot. And this isn't necessarily just for CMAs. I'm seeing this on listing appointments where agents are telling people what their home is worth and what they're doing, basically, which is wrong. It's not wrong, but it's not the best way of doing things. What they're doing is they're printing off some comparable homes, anywhere between 3 and 10 properties that recently sold that are comparable to yours, and they're looking at the price per square foot, and then they're averaging that number to give you a value on your house. Now, if we were in a new construction community where almost every home is the same. There are little nuances with regard to upgrades and the features that you put in each home, but the lot sizes are the same. The houses are generally the same basic features. In that instance, you can get pretty close to the actual value of that property by averaging, I'm doing air quotes right now, which you can't see, but averaging the price per square foot. But it really is frankly, it's a lazy way of valuing property. What we should be doing as real estate agents is something similar to what an appraiser does. And by the way, a real estate agent cannot give you an appraisal. Only an appraiser can do that. We can give you something called a CMA. However, we can be as detailed in that CMA as an appraiser. And so what do we need to do in order to get the price as accurate as we possibly can? Well, we need to look at several things. The location. Are there things that are impacting a potential buyer's perception of value based on your location? And so here's one of the reasons why you want an agent to walk through your house. There are plenty of times where I've had somebody say, hey, Brian, here's my home. It's in this neighborhood. Here's a few photos. Tell me what you think it's worth. And I'll do that. And based on the information they provided me with, at least in my own head, I was right. But then they invite me over to the house. And I had one instance where literally the person next door living to them was such a hoarder that as we got the property on the market, we started showings. Nobody wanted to live there because they didn't want to live next to all that stuff. I was going to say something else, but I didn't. And so does that impact a buyer's perception of value? Yes, it does. Does it on paper when we're looking at other homes that have recently sold? No, not necessarily, because we didn't have that information up front. The best way for us to provide you with a true and accurate opinion of value is to visit the property and look at the location first and foremost. From there, we are then looking at your upgrades and your condition and your lot size and your lot features and everything else that makes up your property. The proper thing to do in a CMA is to make individual adjustments for the condition, the upgrades, the location, so on and so forth. So what does that mean? Well, in a CMA, if we're just taking 5 properties and we're looking at the sold price per square foot and we're averaging out that sold price per square foot and then applying it to your square footage, it might not be wrong, but it's a guess. It's not as accurate as if somebody that was selling their home had a 2-car garage, whereas everyone else had no garage or a 1-car garage. There's value in that second bay in that garage. Would you agree? Yes. Same thing at looking at properties with docks as an example. You know, building a dock is not cheap. I think and I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. The average cost to build a dock is about $100 a linear foot. And then from there, it can get more expensive if you want things like a covered pier head and a floater and a boat lift and all that good stuff. But docks are not cheap. So we have to accurately equate the value of that dock into our overall the CMA, to determine true fair market value. So we need to make adjustments for all these things. And I'm not seeing agents do that, probably because they're not comfortable enough with saying, okay, well, if this has hardwood flooring and everything else has carpet, how much is that hardwood flooring? Well, I can tell you that I know what those numbers are because of the amount of properties I've sold and the amount of homes that I've personally renovated and helped investors renovate. So I've got a good idea of how much all that stuff costs. I can give you a more accurate CMA on your home than somebody that just doesn't have that background and that experience. And I'm not saying that to boast. I'm just saying it so you understand that there's a difference, obviously, between just coming up with an average price per square foot and applying it to your home and then making individual adjustments for all the things within it, which is why the Zillow estimate for your house will never, ever, ever be right. It will never be right unless Zillow figures out how to walk inside your house and look at the condition and the upgrades and then apply that to every other home with the same amount of information, which is not going to happen. Super big brother of Zillow to think that they can give you a fair and accurate opinion of value on your house with limited information. My God, don't get me started on Zillow right now. But anyways, the point that I'm trying to make here is that if you want to sell your house, there is the ability in this specific market at this specific point in time to sell your home quickly and for top dollar because of the limited inventory and because of the overload of buyers that are looking for properties right now. That's what I'm seeing, and that's why all of the listings that I've taken so far this year have sold almost immediately. It's because we're applying our marketing plan and our pricing strategy and everything else that we do to get these homes sold, and it's working. And so for all those people out there that have not sold, why have they not sold? That's a great question. I'm seeing it all the time. I mean, I've taken a bunch of listings this year from good agents, by the way, that had it for 6 months or 12 months. It didn't sell. Some agents are so busy in this market that they're so focused on getting new business that they're forgetting to service their existing clients. And that's real. That's happening right now in a bad way in a lot of different companies and a lot of different agents' specific practices because they're so busy, they just don't have time to do it all. And so when they don't have time to do it all, it starts to impact the overall client's, of course, perception of that agent and that company and what they're actually doing to get that home sold. And in some instances, it's not ending well for the agent. That seller is firing that agent and they're going with somebody else. I'm certainly not here to say fire your agent and hire me. That's not what I'm saying, by the way, just to cover myself. But there is a big difference between agents that are providing exceptional service and value and professionalism on top of all of the marketing and the pricing strategies that we employ to get homes sold. So there's a huge difference between that and the agent that's running around like a chicken with their head cut off because they're so busy, they just don't know what to do. You know, it's almost like this death spiral in a sense of they can never get out of the weeds. So they're pushing people and things and activities and responsibilities off or just not doing them entirely, or they're staying up until 10 o'clock at night to do it every day, which is going to lead to burnout. This has gotten way off topic from CMAs, and I realize that. But what I do want to make clear is that if you want a CMA on your home, I am happy to provide it. If, however, another agent provides you with one, you need to make sure that that agent provides you with the comparable properties that they used to arrive at their perceived value for your house. You have to fact check this stuff. And I know it's not you're not in the business of pricing a property as an owner. However, you need to look at that data that they provide you with to see if it makes sense. Is it reasonable? If someone says, hey, I think you can list your home for 15% more than what your neighbor just sold for because it's almost exactly the same as you, but the market's really hot, I would be very cautious about that. Not to say that it can't happen, but if it doesn't sound right, at least get a second opinion to make sure that what they're telling you is accurate, because there are plenty of agents out there that will tell you what you want to hear just to get your listing. And then from there, they'll try and figure out how to get it priced right so that it'll actually sell. And if it doesn't sell, well, then, hey, maybe they got some buyer leads off it and it was worth all of it in the end because they sold another home to someone else. So anyways, that's my little rant about CMAs. Just be careful if you're a seller. Don't get caught up in all the buzz in our market right now and get put into a position where you're not being diligent and you're not fact checking and you're not taking the proper precautions to make sure that you're making the right decisions in real estate. So when I come back, we're going to talk just a little while about for sale by owners. So all that and more as the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Again, reach out to me if you want to sell your house. 2.4% commission to list. Brian Beatty at 843-345-1273. That's my cell. And go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. I'll be right back.
Find Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues next on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. WTMA. Now, here's more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston, and thanks again for tuning in to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Just a few minutes left. I ran a little long on some of these segments I've been talking about this morning, but I would say that I'm incredibly passionate right now about getting properties priced correctly. In my mind, in this type of market, which sellers have been waiting for a decade, it's really important that you get the price of your house right. So if you need information on what your home is worth, please go to my website. I'm happy to provide this to you at no charge. just would like the opportunity to earn your business if you're thinking about selling at some point in the future. Go to listingsincharleston.com. You can enter your information under the contact tab. If you're thinking about selling your house, click on the sell your home tab. You can learn more about my 2.4% listing commission. That's my new listing incentive for this summer. It's just been one of those markets where your home is going to sell rather quickly if I employ everything I know about marketing, which I've built my business off of. It's what people hire me for. It's my expertise in marketing that gets the job done for them. And if we price it well and it's in good condition, it should sell in 30 days or less. And if that happens and we don't have to spend 9 months together, then I'm obviously willing to cut my commission a little bit to save you guys some money so that we can then use extra money to go and help you buy something else. But of course, if it takes 9 months, that's okay too. So listingsincharleston.com is the website for more information on that, or give me a call, 843-345-1273. So I want to talk for just a few minutes about for sale by owners because it's a ripe market for sale by owners. We just talked a lot about pricing. So obviously, if you're for sale by owner, you need to get a grip on what your house is actually worth. And I'll tell you this, there are a few different types of buyers that are going to look at your property. Buyer number one is the buyer that wants a deal. They go after for sale by owners because they think they're naive and they don't know what they don't know. And if you're working with a seasoned buyer and you're a first-time home seller and you're selling for sale by owner, there is a big risk for you to get taken advantage of, whether it's price or negotiations or whatever the case might be. You as a seller have to take care of yourself and understand what your house is worth so you're not underselling it. And then number two, learn that contract so you guys know what to look out for. And if you need help, then either hire an attorney or hire a real estate agent just for the negotiation of the contract. Say, hey, let's come up with some sort of arrangement where I'm not having to pay the full commission, but I still want your help. Because although I've done the job of getting the buyer interested, I want to make sure I'm not going to get taken advantage of. So know your contract. And if you don't feel 100% comfortable with that, get some help. So buyer number one is the buyer that wants a deal. Buyer number two is represented by an agent. If you're a for sale by owner and you are not compensating a buyer agent 3% of the purchase price for their commission, which is usually what a buyer agent receives, then you are cutting out 90% of your market. 90% of all transactions occur with the help of a real estate agent. So if you're going after that 10% of unrepresented buyers, who are you going to find? You're going to find the buyers that want a deal, or you're going to find buyers that just don't see value in a real estate agent because they know it all, or they just simply don't know. They just don't know that they should have a real estate agent help them. All of those can be very tricky transactions, but I'll tell you what I'm seeing a lot right now. For sale by owner lists their home for sale at a competitive price that's compared to their neighbors. And then the buyer comes in and they say, hey, well, automatically off the top, I'm going to take 6% off the price because you don't have to pay a commission. All real estate's inflated by 6% to pay for commissions. So why should you as a for sale by owner automatically earn 6% more when you're not paying a commission? So they're going to slice that right off the top and then they're going to negotiate. I'm seeing that happen a lot right now. And it kind of makes sense in the eyes of a buyer. But if you're a seller and they're just going to cut 6% off the price, it kind of makes sense at that point in the game to hire a real estate agent. You know, and I'll say it this way. I've had this one client that was a for sale by owner for 4 months, and I just kept checking in with her saying, hey, how are things going? Can I help in any way? Do you have all the documentation you need? Let me give you a few tips on marketing that don't cost anything. So just trying to help him out. And she said, look, I'm going to try this for 90 days. If it doesn't work out, I'm going to hire you to sell my house. And ultimately that happened, not necessarily because she couldn't sell her house. It's just that it became a full-time job. She had to be at her house for showings. She had a young daughter. It was a lot to handle. So one of the things that I'll say about for sale by owners is that if you are not prepared to work hard, I wouldn't even start, because for sale by owners is not easy. And buyers are out there to try and get the best deal they can. And so when they see for sale by owner, it's synonymous with good deal. So just be careful if you're for sale by owner. Make sure you know your pricing. Make sure you know your contract. If you don't feel comfortable with all that stuff, get an agent and then try and make money on the other side when you go and buy something else. I don't have much time to talk about for sale by owners. I'm going to leave a little meat on the bone. I'm going to talk about that next weekend. So I'll talk to you more about for sale by owners next week, and I am out of time. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. If I can help in any way with regard to your real estate, whether it be general knowledge or helping you buy, sell, or invest, go to my website, listingsincharleston.com, or call me at 843-345-1273. Again, 2.4% commission to sell your house. Listingsincharleston.com. Take care, Charleston. Have a great weekend, and thanks for tuning in to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show.
Join us for another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show next Saturday morning at 9 and Sunday morning at 10. Contact Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. 843-345-1273.